Source Filmmaker has no native way to export images with transparency. If you want a transparent image, or want to layer multiple scenes together, you'll have to do a little bit of editing. This tutorial is split into 3 sections. The first will be basic masking, the second will be layering a scene, and the third section will explain how to fake your bloom, which must be disabled for the masking process to work. Before you start, you'll need to download Das Matzi's green screen panels from the workshop. I'll put a link in the description. For just a basic mask, load up the black void map and spawn, pose, and light your model. I'll be using my Skyhook port from Bioshock Infinite because it helps me illustrate a potential problem later on. On your main camera, make sure your bloom scale slider is all the way down. Once you're happy with it, you can render it out. And when it's finished, we'll make our mask. Hide all the lights and spawn in one of the green screen panels from the workshop. Rotate and position it so that it's behind your model, filling up the viewport. Right-click on the green screen in the element viewer and set the skin to 3. This will make it white. Increase the tone map scale a bit to make sure it's white and not grey. Render it out again, giving it a different name so that you don't overwrite the original. We're going to open both of these in an image editor. I'm using Photoshop, but the process is pretty much the same in GIMP. I'll show both. We're going to add a layer mask to our image. In Photoshop, you click this button. In GIMP, right-click the layer and select Add Layer Mask. We're going to select the mask image and copy it. In both GIMP and Photoshop, hold Alt and click on the white box next to your layer to open the layer mask, and paste in your mask image. In GIMP, make sure to press the anchor button. If we go back to our original now, we can see the opposite of what we want happening. This is because the white part of the mask is what's visible, and the black parts are what are invisible. To fix this, just open your layer mask and invert it. If you look closely, this model has some grey segments on it. This is due to the way this specific model fakes certain aspects of rendering. Not every model you use is going to have them. If the model does though, we can adjust the levels to get rid of them. Move the top peg in the input section down. Your image is now masked. To layer a scene, set it up as you normally would and render it out. Hide the model and render it again. Unload the map and then load black void. Render out the mask using the exact same method we used earlier. Apply the mask to the first render, invert and level it, and paste your background underneath. Now you have a layered image. As part of the process, the bloom was turned off so it didn't interfere with the mask. We can, however, fake our own bloom. If your layer has this little icon next to it, you'll have to right-click and rasterize it first. Then, right-click and apply the layer mask. Duplicate the layer and adjust the levels. We're going to take the left pin in the input section and move it up to bring out the highlights. Apply a Gaussian blur and adjust the radius. The more blur, the wider your bloom is. Usually a value between about 4 and 7 looks pretty good. Now set the blending mode to linear dodge add to finalize the effect. Adjusting the opacity will adjust the strength of your bloom, so mess with it until you think it looks good. So there you go, now you know how to mask, layer, and fake bloom in Source Filmmaker.